Okay, before anyone comes for me, yes, I know family dinners can be awkward. You're supposed to smile through it, make a few passive-aggressive jokes, sneak off to the bathroom to scroll TikTok and text your group chat that you'd rather be anywhere else. But last night? Last night was something else. It wasn't awkward. It was revealing. Like the universe decided it was time I saw exactly where I stand in this family. And wow, message received. So here's some background. Every Thursday, my in-laws come over for dinner. It's never enjoyable, but I've always gone along with it. Kieran, my husband, says it's important for the kids. We have two, both under 10, and I'm not trying to keep them from their grandparents. I just wish it didn't always feel like I was being graded on a test I didn't sign up for. Kieran's parents are traditional, to put it lightly. His dad, William, genuinely believes women should just be grateful they're kept, and his mom, Alexa, is the type to adjust your appearance mid-sentence or say, "Oh, that's what you're wearing," with a smile sweet enough to paralyze your ability to clap back. I keep meals simple on Thursdays because honestly, I'm exhausted by the time the week hits that point. Yesterday, I made a pasta bake. Nothing fancy, just pasta, veggies, cheese, and a prayer. The kids like it. That's good enough for me. Especially after spending the day fielding school emails, a Zoom call from the nurse's office, and a meltdown about a lost water bottle. The second William walks in, I can already tell he's in one of those moods. Dramatic sighs, muttering, like he's allergic to being in a house not run by 1950s standards. He's been extra like this lately. Maybe it's a control thing. Maybe it's just age. It starts with the food. He pokes it like it's radioactive and says, "This the best you can do?" Like he's personally offended by melted cheese. The kids giggle, which just encourages him. And then Kieran, instead of stepping in or ignoring it, joins in. He smirks and throws out, "Well, she did marry me for the name and whatever property we don't actually have. Mind you, we've got a mortgage and a car that coughs every time you start it." This fantasy he's selling is laughable. I try to cut it off with a, "Can we not do this in front of the kids?" But Kieran cuts me off with, "Maybe if you put as much effort into the marriage as you do feeling sorry for yourself, we'd have something edible. In front of everyone." No one says anything. Alexa pours herself more wine and scrolls her phone. The kids go silent, which is worse than the giggling. I just sit there. What am I supposed to do? If I speak, I'm too emotional. If I leave, I'm making a scene. Then William shifts to my job. Says it's cute that I work, but I should focus on the home, because real women know their place. My mom worked full-time and our house didn't spontaneously combust. But sure, William, go off. Then it's my outfit. Leggings apparently aren't real pants, and back in his day, women cared how they looked. For the record, I was dressed for errand running and deep cleaning, not for a TED Talk. Alexa watches the wall like it might save her. Kieran picks at his food like he's above all of it. I try to get the kids to focus on eating, but they're watching everything. They know. My daughter starts to say she likes the food, and William cuts her off. Of course she does. Kids don't know better. I want to scream. I want to tell him to shut up, but I'm just done. I'm too tired to fight, and I just want the evening to end. So I pick up my phone and scroll. I text my sister something like, "Please end me." She replies with a meme that doesn't help. Then William starts ranting about how soft my generation is and how if I'd lived under his roof, I'd have been sent packing. Kieran is laughing, like really laughing. I don't even recognize this version of him. I know he's desperate for his dad's approval, but why does it have to come at my expense? Eventually, I stand up and start clearing plates. Not because I want to, just because I need to do something. Alexa comments that I look upset. I say nothing. I dump the plates in the sink. Not slamming, but not caring if they break either. Then Kieran from across the room has the nerve to ask if I'm going to cry. No, I'm not crying. I'm surviving. I tell him I'm fine. He rolls his eyes like that's somehow annoying. After dessert, I let the kids take their tablets to their room. Forget screen time rules tonight. I just needed them away from this circus. Alexa starts talking about the weather, like none of this just happened. William mutters about how the world's gone insane. Kieran asks what's for dinner tomorrow. I almost laugh. I tell him, I don't know. Maybe ask your dad for some ideas. He doesn't find that funny. I finish the dishes and head to the bedroom. I lock the door, not out of fear, just habit. I lie down and scroll TikTok for an hour, mostly out of spite. Kieran comes in later, doesn't say a word, just changes clothes and climbs into bed. And I lay there, wide awake, wondering how many more Thursdays I'm supposed to survive. Thinking about how I'm supposed to just act normal after that. I don't sleep. I think about leaving. Not even like, leave, just going somewhere for the weekend, taking the kids, getting some space. But then I think about how much work that would be, and if I'm just running away or actually doing something, I think about what my friends would say, but honestly, most of them don't really get it. They all just say that's just how in-laws are, or Kieran's just stressed, maybe. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I feel like I'm waiting for something to snap. Like I can't just let this go, but I don't know what to do next. I keep thinking about how easy it was for them to just tear me down in my own house. Like I'm some inconvenience just there to make food and take up space. I keep thinking about how Kieran looked at me like he was embarrassed by me, and how William clearly hates me for not being his version of woman, and Alexa just lets it happen because she's been doing that her whole life. I'm not saying I'm some perfect wife or mom. I definitely have my days where I just want to scroll my phone and let the house go to hell. I forget stuff, I get cranky, I dress for comfort and not for anyone else. But I don't think I deserve to be treated like that. Not by them. Definitely not by Kieran. I keep thinking about what would happen if I just stopped doing everything. Like if I just let them see what it's like when I'm not holding it all together. Anyway, sorry. If this is just a rant, I just needed to get it out. Somewhere, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I know I can't just keep letting this happen. I'm not the person who just takes it and smiles. Not anymore. We'll update. First update. So I guess I'm back. And yeah, it's wild how fast things can go. Sideways once you stop pretending everything's fine. I woke up the morning after that dinner and the house just felt off. Kieran was already up, acting like nothing happened, making his coffee, scrolling through his phone at the counter. He actually offered me the last of the oat milk, like he was doing me some huge favor. And I just stared at him because it's wild how someone can be so clueless and so smug at the same time. The kids were weirdly quiet too, which is not the vibe in our house ever. Usually it's chaos. Someone's fighting over the charger. Someone else is yelling about their missing hoodie. But no, they ate cereal, barely talking, just peeking at me and then at Kieran. I asked my daughter if she wanted to wear her blue sneakers. She always does. And she just shrugged. My son tried to make a joke about the pasta from last night. He said, "At least it didn't have peas." But then he looked at me and stopped. So, yeah, they knew something was up. I got everyone out the door for school drop off, and honestly, just sat in my car for like 10 minutes after. Checked my phone, scrolled through Reddit, and got halfway through a thread about someone's neighbor drama before I snapped and realized I was just numb. I texted my friend Tara. We're not super close, but she's the kind of person who always has something to say, and she's not afraid to call people out. I sent her a quick family dinner was a disaster. Want to get coffee? And she said sure. So I went. We met up at this place that's always packed. But somehow there was a table free. I told her what happened, and she just stared at me for a second, then went off. She said, "You know, your FIL is a dinosaur, and your husband's always been a little too eager to impress him." I kind of laughed, but she's not wrong. She asked why I let them do that to me, and I didn't have an answer. I just said, "It's easier to ignore it than fight every time," but even I knew that was a lie. TBH. She said, "Maybe it's easier, but it's not better." She's right. By the time I got home, Kieran had already texted me like 3 times asking if I was coming back for lunch. We never do lunch together, IDK. What that was about. I ignored it, started thinking about what I do for dinner, and then just stopped. Like, why am I planning dinner for people who treat me like the help? No, not today. So I didn't cook at all. I ordered pizza for the kids, pepperoni for my son, cheese for my daughter mostly, because I didn't want to deal with complaints. Kieran came home, took one look at the pizza boxes, and asked if I was done sulking. I said, "Maybe I'm just done, period." He rolled his eyes, muttered something about how I never let things go. I said, "Yeah, I'm not letting this go. Actually, not this time." Then his mom Alexa showed up. She barely knocked, just walked in like always, acting all concerned, but you could tell she was mostly there to smooth things over and get back to her regularly scheduled programming. She asked if we could talk in private, so I went to the hallway with her. She started off with, "I know William's comments can be harsh, but he's just old-fashioned. Don't take it personally." I just stared at her. I said, "He called me lazy and useless in front of my kids." She said, "Well, he doesn't mean it like that. You know, how he is." I said, "Yeah, and I'm done pretending it's okay." She tried to guilt trip me about keeping the family together and how Kieran's just under a lot of pressure. I said, He's under pressure from what's sitting at the table while his dad trashes his wife. She looked uncomfortable, started playing with the zipper on her purse and said, "You know William just wants what's best for." When I asked Kieran's mom, "What about what's best for me? Or for the kids?" She didn't answer. She just said, "You're not like the women in this family. You don't just do what needs to be done." I said, "Maybe that's the problem." She slammed the door on her way out. Kieran didn't say a word, didn't defend me, didn't even acknowledge what had just happened. He went straight to the fridge, grabbed a beer, and planted himself in front of the TV like none of it mattered. The kids were in their room watching something on their tablets, way too loud. But I didn't care. I sat at the dining table, scrolling through old photos, trying to remember when things started unraveling. It wasn't always like this. Or maybe it was, and I just refused to see it. The next morning, I woke up and made a decision. I was done being the household manager by default. I didn't do laundry. I didn't pick up Kieran's socks from under the couch. I didn't wipe the counters or empty the dishwasher. Kieran asked if I'd seen his blue shirt. I said, "Check the laundry basket." He looked at me like I'd just insulted his entire existence. I shrugged. The kids noticed the shift too. My daughter asked for pancakes and I told her, "Sure, if you help me make them." She said, "Okay." And we did it together. Kieran didn't eat. Later, Alexa texted, "You can't just stop doing things because you're upset." I left it on read. That day, I started realizing just how much I actually carry. Not in a martyr way, but in a very real, very practical nothing gets done unless I do it kind of way. So I began taking pictures of everything. Groceries, receipts, the pile of laundry, my calendar with all the appointments, school emails, notes. I saved it all in a folder on my phone. Not because I needed to prove anything, just so I could see it clearly. Kieran caught me taking one of the photos and asked what I was doing. I said, "Just documenting." He rolled his eyes. "You're so dramatic." By the end of the week, the whole energy in the house had shifted. The kids started asking questions. My daughter asked if we could visit Grandma. My mom, not Alexa. I said, "Maybe, but she's 3 hours away, so it's not exactly a quick trip." My mom called that night and asked if everything was okay. I told her, "Not really, but I'm working on it." She offered to come. I said, "Not yet." Then, on Saturday, Kieran's dad called again. This time, I picked up. I wanted to hear what he'd say. He launched right into his usual script. Back in my day, women didn't run the house. They served their husbands. The whole routine. I cut him off. I said, "Well, it's not your day anymore." He said, "You're going to ruin this family with your attitude." I said, "Maybe it needs ruining." He hung up on me. Later that afternoon, Alexa came by with a bag of groceries and her best, "let's pretend nothing happened" smile. "I brought dinner stuff," she said. "Let's just start over." I said, "I'm not cooking." She blinked. "You're serious?" I nodded. "Dead serious." She huffed, dropped the bag on the counter, and started chopping vegetables. Kieran watched from the couch, didn't say a word. Dinner was awkward. Alexa tried to act normal, but she was clearly seething. The food was overloaded with garlic. The kids barely touched it. Kieran ate in silence, then shoved his chair back and left the table. My son asked if we could have pizza tomorrow. I said, "Sounds like a good plan." After dinner, I went out for a walk. Left my watch at home, took my phone, and just breathed for a while. When I got back, Kieran was in the bedroom on his phone. I asked, "Do you want to talk?" He said, "About what?" I said, "About everything." He sighed. "I'm tired. Can we not do this?" I said, "Sure." I shut the door behind me and sat in the hallway. Not because I was crying. I wasn't. But because I needed distance. I didn't want to be near him. Not right now. The next day, I started making a list. Everything I do. Everything the kids need. Every errand. Every invisible task. I moved a few of my things into the guest room. Kieran noticed. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Just need space," I said. He laughed. "You're being ridiculous." "Maybe," I said. He reached for my arm when I walked by. I pulled away. He slammed the door behind me. That night, I took the kids out for ice cream. We sat in the car, windows down, cones dripping, music on. My daughter asked, "Are we going on vacation?" I said, "Not yet, but maybe soon." My son said, "Can it be somewhere with a pool?" When we got home, Kieran's car was gone. I got the kids ready for bed, then sat on the couch scrolling through my phone, looking at places to stay for a while. I texted Tara, asked if she knew anyone with a spare room. She said she'd check, but it might take a little time. I said, that's okay. I'm not in a rush. But I am. I'm done waiting for things to magically fix themselves. Done breaking my back for people who don't even see it. If that makes me selfish, fine. If it makes me difficult, fine. I'd rather be difficult than invisible. I know this isn't over. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm making the choices. I'm not just reacting anymore. I don't know what comes next, but I know I'm not going back to the way it was. More soon. Thanks if you're still reading. Second update coming. Because yeah! Turns out I hadn't hit rock bottom yet. Apparently there's always one more level before you finally decide you're done surviving and ready to change everything. Long cause I need to get this all out and I feel like if I don't, I'll just keep letting it play in my head on loop. So IDK if anyone else ever notices this, but when things get tense in a house, even the dumbest stuff starts to feel like a big deal, like a missing charger or someone leaving the milk out suddenly feels huge. That was this week. The house was messy, like not even bad messy, just normal stuff. Shoes everywhere, crumbs from the kids, snacks, laundry, not folded, whatever, except Kieran was acting like it was the end of the world. Every little thing he'd sigh super loud or make some comment about how no one respects the house. He said it to the kids. He said it to me. He even said it to his mom over speakerphone, which was wild because she just agreed with him and then started talking about how when she was my age, she already had 3 kids and kept the house perfect and cooked every meal from scratch. I actually laughed, which she did not like. So I started just not answering, or I'd say, then do it yourself. The kids even started pairing me, which honestly made me feel a little guilty, but also like, why should they think it's only my job? I could tell Kieran was getting more annoyed every day. I started leaving early in the morning, taking the kids out for breakfast, going to the park, just not being in the house. He texted a few times asking where we were. I said out. One time he called and asked if I was coming back for lunch and I said no, and he hung up. Then on Tuesday I came home and found Alexa in the kitchen going through the fridge. She said she was helping out since things seemed to be slipping. I said, you don't live here. She said, I'm just trying to keep things together. I said, you can go home. She slammed the fridge and stormed out. Kieran came in as she was leaving and he was mad. Asked what I said to his mom, I told him honestly that she was overstepping. He said, this is my family's house too. I said, then maybe your family should do the work too. He raised his voice. I didn't back down. He got up in my face and for the first time ever I just pushed him. Not hard, just enough to make him back off. He stared at me and then this is so childish. He slapped the wall behind me and stomped out. I just stood there, honestly surprised he didn't say anything else. After that, things were just cold. He started sleeping in the living room. The kids didn't ask why I let them watch extra Netflix. I texted my mom and told her things were bad. She said, come down here for a while if you need. I said I would think about it. Tara texted me and said she'd found someone with a spare room if I needed to get away. I said, maybe soon. The next big thing was Thursday. Kieran came home in a mood, I could tell by the way he slammed the front door and didn't even take his shoes off. The kids were in the kitchen with me working on a puzzle. He walked in, saw the mess, and just lost it. Said, is this how we live now, just garbage everywhere? I said, it's a puzzle, not garbage. He shoved the puzzle off the table. My daughter started crying. I told him to get out. He said, this is my house. I said, not for long. He stormed out again. I picked up the pieces, put the kids in their room, and called my mom. I said, I think I need to get out. She said, come tomorrow. I said, okay. But I didn't want to just run. I wanted him to understand what he'd done. So I went into the living room, and he was sitting there staring at the TV, but it wasn't even on. I stood in front of him and said, I'm taking the kids. He said, you can't just decide that. I said, watch me. He tried to grab my arm. I pulled away, and this time I slapped his hand off me. I said, don't touch me. He glared at me and said, you're seriously blowing up this family over some stupid dinner? I said, no, I'm blowing up this family because you treat me like trash and let your parents do it too. He said, this is all in your head. I said, I have proof. And I showed him the folder of pictures on my phone, all the stuff I do, all the receipts, the calendars, the appointments, everything. He looked at it for like 2 seconds and then tossed my phone on the couch. I went to the kids' room, packed overnight bags, and told them we were going to grandma's for a bit. My daughter asked if daddy was coming. I said, not right now. My son said, is this because of the puzzle? I said, no, it's not your fault. As I was leaving, Kieran tried to block the door. I shoved past him. He yelled, you'll regret this. I said, we'll see. We drove to my mom's that night. 3 hours in the car, kids fell asleep halfway. I just listened to music and tried not to think about what I'd just done. My mom hugged me for a long time when we got there, made up the guest room and let me rant for, like, an hour. She said, "You don't have to go back if you don't want to." The next day, Kieran started blowing up my phone calls, texts, voicemails. Everything from "come home" to "you're ruining everything" to "I'll change, just come back." I ignored him. Then, Alexa started texts about how I was tearing the family apart and how William was beside himself. Then William called my mom's house phone, which I didn't even know he had, and left a message about how I'm a disgrace, and he always knew I'd do something. Like this. My mom picked up the phone, listened, and then unplugged it. "I spent the weekend just went to the park with the kids, made pancakes with my mom, watched movies, let the kids stay up late. I realized how easy it was to breathe when no one was judging me for existing. Kieran tried to guilt trip me again on Monday. Said the kids needed their dad. Said I was being unfair. Said I was making a scene. I sent him a picture of the calendar with all the appointments he never went to and said, 'You can come see them if you want, but you're not welcome at my mom's.' He said, 'You can't keep me from my kids.' I said, 'Try me,' I said. My mom told me I could stay as long as I needed. I told her I wasn't sure what came next, but I needed space to figure it out. I texted Tara, 'Is that spare room still an option?' She replied, 'Anytime.' What finally shattered the last bit of hope I had was when Kieran texted my daughter's old tablet, the one she barely uses anymore. He must have remembered the number from when he first set it up. His message said, 'Tell mommy to call daddy.' My daughter looked at me and asked, 'Do I have to?' I said, 'No, you never have to do anything that makes you uncomfortable.' And that was it. My line in the sand. I'm out. I'm not going back. He can keep the house, his parents, and his pride. I'll take peace and pancakes at my mom's, over walking on eggshells. I haven't blocked him completely. I want the kids to have the chance to stay connected if they want to, but I'm not making it easy for him either. Maybe next time he wants to get a laugh by throwing me under the bus in front of his dad, he'll remember what it feels like to come home to an empty house and cold leftovers. Or maybe not. I don't care anymore. I'm done. I'll update if something truly unexpected happens, but for now I'm just with my kids, my mom, and my own thoughts, trying to figure out what comes next. Final update. Here's the truth. If you want to find out how many people think they own a piece of your life, disappear for 3 days with your kids. I had no idea how many ways people could try to reach me until my phone refused to stop buzzing. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. Everyone was a therapist, a lawyer, a marriage counselor. Everyone was offended. And apparently, wanting pancakes at my mom's instead of being publicly humiliated over pasta made me some kind of runaway villain. Gail, I'm honestly impressed by your dedication, but I'm tired. I'm not going back, no matter how many times they call. Since the last update, we've been at my mom's house. It's small, the Wi-Fi is ancient, the mugs don't match, but there's comfort in it. My mom has been cooking all my childhood meals, including the weird potato salad I used to hate. The kids love it somehow. And for the first time in I don't know how long, I actually slept through the night. The kids are happy. My daughter's obsessed with watering my mom's plants. My son can't get enough of her old puzzle collection. Neither has mentioned Kieran, except to ask if they can bring more stuffed animals next time. That says a lot. And then there's the phone. First it was Kieran. Calls, texts, missed FaceTimes, emails. Who emails their own wife? At first it was, "Are you okay? Let's talk. Come home." Then came the guilt. "You're confusing the kids. You're ruining this family." Then anger. I muted everything. Didn't block him, but didn't engage either. My mom said if he shows up here, she'll call the neighbor, who is conveniently a retired police officer. Then Alexa started. Dozens of texts about how family is sacred, about the damage I'm doing, about Kieran, about keeping up appearances. She called. I ignored it. She called my mom's landline. My mom picked up and said, "Maybe talk to your son instead of calling mine," and then hung up. Even William, who I never expected to bother, left a voicemail so long it filled the inbox. Said things like, "You never respected us. You made Kieran weak. This is all your fault." He even said, "You're a burden." I warned him. I played it on speaker. My mom listened, shook her head and deleted it. "Some people never change," she said. Tara checked in, asked if I was safe, offered to bring coffee and donuts and just sit in the driveway in case I didn't feel like talking. I told her, not today, but maybe soon. Even if we're not close, she gets it. She's been through something messy herself. She knows what it's like when people turn on you the moment you stop playing the role they picked for you. But the most absurd part? Kieran called my dad. They've never gotten along. But apparently, he thought dragging in my father might help. My dad called me, frustrated, asking what was going on. I told him the truth. Everything. The dinner, the yelling, the silence, the weight of being treated like a problem in my own home. He went quiet for a beat, then said, "I'm glad you're safe. Let me know if you need anything." That's more than he's said about anything in years. And yet, despite all the noise, not a single person from Kieran's side has asked how I'm feeling, or how the kids are doing, or if we needed support. It's all been about them. Their image, their discomfort, their need for calm. Never about the people they hurt. And meanwhile, Kieran's trying to keep up with the life I ran. He didn't realize how much I handled until I wasn't there to do it. Now he's texting about the kids' medical info, the school app login, the dentist appointment, the grocery list. I've sent him what's necessary, nothing more. I'm not making life harder for the kids, but I'm not going to make things convenient for him either. I figured it out. He can too. Alexa tried one last guilt trip. Said William can't sleep. Said the family is falling apart. I said, maybe he should have thought about that before calling me a burden. She said, "You're being petty." I said, "Maybe." She said, "You'll regret this." I said, "Not as much as I'd regret staying." The financial stuff got tense too. Kieran and I used to split things in a way that worked. But suddenly he's panicking, asking for money for the mortgage. I told him, "You live there. The kids are with me. Figure it out." He got mad. Said I was cruel. I said, "You wanted to be the man of the house, now act like it." He hung up. My mom high-fived me. The kids don't mention him much. My daughter asked to call him once. I let her. They talked for 5 minutes. Then she turned to me and said, "Can we finish Grandma's puzzle now?" William made one final attempt. Showed up at my mom's door. She answered, said he could talk to her outside, not inside. He told her I was tearing the family apart. She replied, "Then maybe you should have treated her like family." He left, red-faced. I watched from the window, felt absolutely nothing. The school reached out too. Asked if everything was okay, if the kids needed anything. I said we were fine, explained the move, told them things were changing, but they'd be back soon. The school counselor said, "If there's anything we can do, let us know." I almost cried. It was the first time someone asked what we needed, not what was easiest for everyone else. So, what now? I don't know exactly. But I know what I'm not doing. I'm not going back. I'm not apologizing. I'm not shrinking to keep other people comfortable. I'm done being the maid, the scapegoat, the buffer. It's not easy. There's still a mountain of logistics to sort through. School stuff, legal stuff, 1,000 tiny details I haven't even thought of yet. But I'll take this. The chaos, the questions, the freedom, over being a ghost in my own life. Kieran still texts. Sometimes he's angry. Sometimes he begs. Sometimes he sends photos like that's going to erase everything he said. I just mute him. I told him he can see the kids wink, but only at my mom's, and only if he can act like a decent person. So far, he hasn't even tried. I don't know where we're headed yet, but I know one thing. I don't owe anyone my silence anymore. And the best part? I don't have to pick up the phone. Thanks for reading. I know it's messy, but that's life right now. And for the first time, it's my life.